Mark, any other thoughts about products that, right now you've got concerns about counterfeiting and where you think folks should be paying really, really close attention to supply chain provenance?
I mean, the one that comes to mind immediately is pharmaceuticals. Obviously, everybody's clamoring for pharmaceuticals, some that have been hinted at helping solve the COVID-19 problem and are now being used for applications that they may not be intended for originally. And that's causing a supply issue for the people who actually need those kind of drugs. But being able to understand the provenance of pharmaceuticals in this particular time when everybody is moving so fast, it becomes easy to introduce substandard, out of date, watered down pharmaceuticals into a previously secure supply chain. And that will have effects for potentially many years to come with many, many people's health.
And I would add on to pharmaceuticals, medical devices. And I think it's more broadly anything for which right now we're seeing a huge increase in demand and for which there are potential safety issues, right? So if it's not used correctly, if it's not made correctly, it could endanger a person's life now or sometime in the future. So certainly pharmaceuticals, medical devices, but even potentially, things like automobile parts, aircraft parts, right? That, in times when there are shortages and we may be desperate to get the parts that we need, that's when we lower our guard and when we actually are much more vulnerable to counterfeiters.
Yeah, the only product I'm going to exclude from this right now is toilet paper. I don't think we need to do too much and trying to secure the supply of toilet paper, even though there's been an irrational rush on it over the last few weeks. I think we can actually exclude that from the category.
I completely agree. I think that's a great example where you say that there's a big demand, but actually the consequences, maybe, not such a big deal. Much of what we're talking about here, Mark and I wrote about in an article that was published on the Oracle supply chain blog last year. So I'll go ahead and include a link to that article if people want to dig a little bit deeper. Not only did we talk about the supply chain provenance framework, but we also talked about common types of counterfeiting, because it turns out it comes in many different flavors, and we need to be sort of aware of all of them in order to do a proper job of protecting our supply chains. Mark, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your insight, and I hope that this conversation is useful for the folks in our networks and the folks that are out there trying to do good at this really challenging time.
Absolutely, Daniel, no problem. Thanks for inviting me along.